Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, it's me Gamerturk, and today, in the middle of all my Sword Art Online Alicization Rising Steel playthrough uploads, we are going back to Dengeki Bunko Crossing Void, and I'll talk about how you can upgrade your character's rank all the way to S rank. Just a disclaimer, upgrading to A rank is relatively easy, however, upgrading to an S rank is a very frustrating and disappointing process, so if you wanna do it, you need to have an iron will. It's just as frustrating as attempting to get an S rank from a gacha, if not more, since you can somewhat receive an S rank quite reliably with all the bad luck protection going on in the game, but you got no bad luck protection for upgrading, it's all random. But without further ado, the way to upgrade your character ranks is the talent shuffle mechanic. Especially for casual players, I'm sure this is a mechanic that is very out of sight, especially considering unlike stars, skills and equipments, the game never notifies you with an exclamation mark that there is something to be done in the talent tab. To give you a basic understanding, which if you already have, you can just skip ahead for upgrading character ranks, because I'ma explain some hefty stuff here, but the gist of it is, talents are your character's passive abilities. C ranks have 1 talent, B has 2, A has 3, and S ranks come with 4 talent slots to make your character even more powerful, and this difference is the core differing power factor between ranks, so you definitely should not overlook talents by focusing on sheer ranks. A properly spec'd A rank will be more powerful than the S rank limited alice you never shuffled before. There are many different standard talents such as increase attack, increase crit rate, crit damage, physical defense, magic defense, health up, etc. Most of them come in fixed amount talents, so to say, and percentual amount talents. Chances are, if you're not in early game, you will prefer percentual benefits. You can use these to spec your characters accordingly and create synergies, and the most important thing to keep in mind is that pure DPS is not the best strategy all the time. You gotta consider the abilities of your character in the process. For example, Asuna is my DPS character, but I did not go for Valor and Ardor at the same time, which is the percentual and fixed damage increase talents, because Asuna benefits greatly from increased crit rates. Similarly, if you have limited Alice for example, you may want to spec her to be a tank instead of a DPS, but that is for you to strategize. On top of the standard talents, there are character-specific unique talents as well. Each character has one of those unique traits, which generally speaking you should definitely go for. Remember when I said Asuna benefits greatly from crits? That's mainly because unlike other characters, she can have double the crit rate increase thanks to her Aincrad Conqueror unique talent, which makes her a very reliable crit character, and then you can pretty much nuke everything with Mother's Rosario. When I get Asuna into S rank for example, the 4th talent I'll add will definitely be crit damage increase. Of course you can further enhance these via your equipment, but that's an entirely different topic. How do you talent shuffle? It's very easy actually, although if you've never done it before, it can require a little experimentation because the game doesn't properly explain these in my opinion in the small tutorial box they have. For starters, you got 2 different currencies you can use to shuffle. The first is the character specific fragments, which you should always prioritize. And then there are the fragment origin thingies that you can get through a variety of sources like certain missions, event exchanges, void expedition coins, etc. But don't spill these onto random characters you will never use. These are your joker cards, especially useful for limited gacha characters for example, since chances of getting duplicates to use as character fragments is pretty low in limited banners. The next step is, well, simply shuffling. So hit that little shuffle button to enter the shuffle menu, which will highlight all your talents. Ideally, especially early on, so around blue tier skills, don't bother optimizing at all. Your goal should be to reach purple tier talents for the highest benefits. So at this point, just keep shuffling until you get to purple. As you shuffle, the talent has a random chance of reaching the next talent score and eventually to the latter tiers. My personal recommendation is that you always upgrade the lowest score talent to just push your character upwards in general. Once you reach purple tier, now is your time to actually shuffle for the specific talents you want and properly spec your character the way you want him or her to function in battle, as at this point you will rarely get a score upgrade anyways. But how does this factor into upgrading your character rank? Well, upgrading character ranks are achieved through simply talent shuffling and is sadly completely reliant upon RNG, which means whether your character will be upgraded upon talent shuffling is determined completely randomly, and that's why upgrading from an A rank to an S rank is incredibly frustrating. Generally speaking, C rank will get an upgrade to B rank within 5 talent shuffles. It's borderline guaranteed. It really does have a high rate. Getting from B to A can require a bunch of extensive shuffling sessions. My general belief, and I'm highlighting that it's my belief because the game does not explicitly state much, is that you get a better chance of upgrading your character the higher your overall talent score is according to the color of your character. That's why it's easy to go from C to B, because in 5 shuffles, chances are you will already reach blue tier talent in your single talent slot. Getting 2 purple tier talents on a B rank takes naturally longer, and thus your time investment to bring a B to A will be higher as well, but it's still a very reasonable goal that shouldn't really intimidate you. However, once we're talking about bringing A rank to S rank, now that is some major threat to your sanity. For starters, as I mentioned, once you reach purple tier talents, your talent score progress almost comes to a halt. And on top of that, now you have 3 talent slots to progress through, which starts burning through your fragments very quickly. Since the launch of the game, when I received my A rank Asuna, all my main effort has gone into upgrading her. With a couple hundred fragments spent so far, I reached all 65 talents and have spent countless fragments on them without reaching 70 on a single one. I was getting so hopeless in my journey that I was starting to think 70 talent score simply did not exist, and surely the game makes no mention of a max possible talent score in the first place. But eventually it took me around 60 to 70 fragments to reach 75 on a single talent after reaching 65. I don't think anybody has confirmed this either, but people seem to state that 100 on an individual talent is the max score, so that's probably reasonable. And naturally, based on my previous statement of you get a better chance of upgrading your character as your talent tier surpasses your character tier, so far I had no luck of upgrading my Asuna from an A rank into an S rank, since all of my talents are still A ranks. But throughout my journey in the game with other characters, I managed to upgrade multiple B ranks into A ranks, so as I said, unless you're trying to upgrade from A to S, it's a very reasonable experience in general. The most important lesson to learn from this? Well, there are 2 takeaways. First off, it's very easy upgrading your character from a C rank all the way to an A rank, so if you can't get that S rank Shana from the rate up banner, just focus on whichever Shana you have and get her to A rank. A properly spec'd A rank or even a B rank will surpass a non-spec'd S rank. Secondly, your chances of getting an S rank is much higher through gachas with all the bad luck protection involved than actually attempting to upgrade a character from an A rank to an S rank. But I hope this video was useful for you. If you want a gift pack in the game, you can use the following code to get a minor boost, courtesy of 91act for providing me this code. I will have a bunch more Crossing Void content in the near future, so stay tuned, and if you have questions about the game, please do ask and I'll cover them in a future video. I know there has been some debacles recently, starting with the mod compensation issue and then the limited gacha rate bugs, but I genuinely think they were simple mistakes and nothing devious on the developer side. I was gonna make videos on them, but I was too busy as is and couldn't share my opinions on them, so sorry about that. Once my schedule is a little bit more relaxed, I'll make sure to be more responsive towards community developer things like these. If you're looking for a guild, you can join the Gamerturk guild named Furin Kazan, because of course it is. It's also highly recommended that you join my Discord server so we can actually communicate, link in the description. And last but not least, as a disclaimer, I am obviously in contact with the Crossing Void team to create more content for the game in the future. They also have offered me additional support, quote unquote, if I need any, but I turned the additional support offer down as I don't think that would be good for an ecosystem that features co-op and PvP aspects. However, I will have early access to some content in a private test server in the future, so I can cover things for you without affecting the global server ecosystem, so stay tuned for all that. To not miss out on anything, make sure to hit that subscribe and bell icons to get notified when I upload more. If you enjoyed this video, likes are always appreciated. But as always, thank you very much for watching. A huge thanks to all my patrons and YouTube members. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay cool.